'Twas some days before Christmas, and all through Duval, fans were concerned about protocol. Would they head to Tampa and win without Trevor? Or would crushing defeat come from that endeavor? But let's pose for a moment, though it might make you scarred. What if the Jags lose starting CJ Beathard? In the national pros, the idea seems posh that Mayfield escapes the edge rush of Josh. One problem is real that the fans will envision: the danger of Jags not winning the division. But this assumes that the Colts do their job, because sometimes logic escapes the dread mob. The Raiders and Falcons are next on their slate. Two Indy wins, there's hardly debate. But to get the revenge from the great Uncle Rico, the Colts must supplant the Texan head coach D'Amico. All those the helmets will shine with competitive sheen as those rivals battle in Week 18. So if that all happens, despite all their sins, it's very likely the Jags nab 10 wins. Should they fall short against Tampa Bay, the Panthers and Titans are left in the way. It's clear that the Jags will beat their Bryce Young, the undersized rookie whose game hasn't sung. But what do my wandering eyes come to see? The Duval devout now fears Tennessee. Sure, that team is better than bad Carolina, but really, you fear the mayonnaise messiah? Will Levis sometimes can get very lucky, the second-round pick who played for Kentucky. Of course, I must mention one other thing: the running back Derek, yes, Henry the King. Sure, at times on the field he's popped, but playing the Jags, he's often been stopped. There is one guy who can feed the Jags lemons, their star D lineman, Jeffrey Simmons. The Jacksonville line, they've been so depleted. I can see why some fans fear getting defeated. But if the Jags defense can make the ball turn over, Allen pins his ears back, then that game is over. Will there be no Trevor? Will there be no Kirk? It may just not matter. That plan should still work. It's true at their house. The record is stank. But the Jags crushed the Titans at Everbank. So it's fair to proclaim it can happen still. The Jags win Week 18 up in Nashville. And when that all happens, it will stand to reason they may not be hosting, but they'll be in postseason. We hope there's fun from this you derive, while Twitter folks argue if the Jags are alive. For all that you do through the year as you strive, happy holidays from us at the Duval Dive. Some holiday cheer for you here on the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of the Jaguar Report. And who would I be without bringing along my man, Travis Holmes? You got to fix your glasses, or were you getting misty-eyed over that? Was that what that was?
I mean, yeah, that pushed you in the holiday season, sir.
So welcome in, and let Travis and I both be among the first here leading into this holiday weekend to wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday. I think Kwanzaa's coming up if you celebrate that. All of it, those tidings to us from you. But unfortunately, there's going to be an element of bad news and criticism based on the past week's game on Sunday night. I'm going to come out with this, Travis. I'm going to get the positive in. I felt like the defense did a great job against Lamar Demetrius Jackson, a man who's not getting enough talk in the MVP conversation.
I think we are in a full agreement, and you're going to see people complain about the defense because no one's going to be happy with a loss that was as dominant as that loss seemed to be. But to
Seemed to be. I'm glad you worded it that way.
seemed to be, because at the end of the day, and I've heard this mentioned by multiple people at this point, like the Jaguars could have won this game by 20 plus, and they lost it by double digits. There's no real that's just how volatile the offense ended up being this game, and special teams in addition to offense. But the defense did their job for the most part. They just struggled running the ball, but they were put into some impossible situations basically the entire game. So I don't blame them for that.
Well, and over and above, I know people's like, but Brandon McManus missed 2 kicks. It's from 50 and 55 yards out. Those ain't gimmies, folks. All right. Like let's be clear. Those misses, in my opinion, are a symptom of the offensive struggles more than anything else. Like if McManus, I feel McManus within 40 yards, like any kicker of any great repute, shall we say. Heck, even Adam Vinatieri wasn't kicking a whole lot of 50-yarders in his day. Right? That was more of a Vanderjack thing. But I think that part where it's like we could have been ahead in this and this. I'm like, no, dog, no. And then people want to say, well, if Trevor hadn't fumbled, we'd have gotten a touchdown. Wasn't it 3rd and 13 when he was running, or was it 3rd and 16? I forget. Yeah. They ain't converting that, so don't be acting like that was points on the board either. So
it was 3 points. It was likely 3 points on the board, though. Like where he fumbled the ball, yeah, that was more likely than not 3 points on the board, and that was a rough one to swallow. I'm just going to be honest with you.
I'll meet you at 3 at that, sure. But even my good friend Captain Chris Hill of the Captain and Company Morning Show, bing, was all like, "Well, that should have been a touch." No, shut your dumb face. Not a thing. I don't care if you were listening to this from 12 to 2 on oldschool101.com. I'm in his house if you're listening to in there, and he was wrong. Wrong, Travis. Wrong. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with that, as you can tell. But listen,
I see.
We can talk about the defense holding Lamar Demetrius Jackson and company 2-5 in the red zone and all, and under 200 passing yards and on and on and on. But at day's end, I believe you have a lot of quality offensive breakdown and what it is the Jags will need to fix up. But first, I want to go to this theory first that you're coming out with. And I call it a theory because nobody really knows what happened, but you have some pretty sound evidence. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol. I think up to this point, as we're listening, we don't like he's going to be a game time decision essentially, right, Travis? I'm not sure what you've written in bigcat.com, but
well, that's basically what it comes down to. Is going to be likely a game time decision, because it's really going to come down to a race with the clock to see if he's going to be able to clear concussion protocols. But as of 7 minutes ago, Doug Peterson did state that Trevor Lawrence is still in the concussion protocol, but also would be practicing today. So that gives him a coin flip, at least at minimum, that gives him a coin flip chance to potentially play.
See, this is why you need to watch the stream. Breaking news here from Travis Holmes of BigCatCountry.com. Yeah, so like, listen, that's obviously a good sign, but I think less than surprising. But a day's in, all it really means is a whole lot of nothing, because again, game time decision. But it seems to be universally regarded that it was in the fourth quarter that when Trevor Lawrence got the concussion here. But Travis has a very interesting thing to suggest here in our show not tell portion of the show here. There's some video you have that we looked at before the show. I think you got a good thing to go on here, but let me throw up on the screen now. Walk us through it, Travis.
Well, as you say, it's universally regarded. Remember, this is the third quarter with 2 minutes left in the game. And when this play happened, I was texting with a former Jaguar coordinator, and he immediately said, Trev's not right. And I said, I'm shocked they didn't take him off the field. Like, this was the time that I'm like, I thought the medical staff was going to take Trevor off the field because his head hits that ground, it bounces. And from that point, every single play that he throws that's past 5 yards down the line of scrimmage is off. And these are literally all of the plays that were past 10 yards, past that 8 to 10 yard mark that Trev threw from that point. And again, this is 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter in a 7-10 game. And Trev could not throw anything down the field. And if you look at it from that perspective, instead of saying, hey, it was like 5 minutes left in the game and it was this random running play that he did, and that's what did it. And I never believed that. Then it changes your whole outlook of the game, because the game got away from the Jaguars from that point. Again, they're in the middle of a dogfight, and now all of a sudden they can't buy a first down pretty much from, again, 2 minutes left in the third for the rest of the game, because Trev's probably seeing 3 people, and that's my personal opinion. And the only reason that everyone's saying that this happened in the fourth quarter is because in Monday's press conference, that's what Doug theorized. That's what Doug didn't even say it happened. He
Even
just
right
said,
after
I
the
think it
game,
might have been this.
even right after the game, that was his guess. It was something like there late in the fourth quarter. So I think he just kind of, I don't want to say doubled down, but I want to say kind of repeated.
Yeah,
Parrots.
just top. Yeah, just top of the head. Yeah, that was one of those like I don't know. He said after the game, this is when it was. But the problem is these guys are gladiators, and by these guys, I'm talking about the players. These guys are fighters. They don't want to leave the field because somewhere out there, there's an Aaron Rodgers. Somewhere out there, there's a Tom Brady. There's that next quarterback who's going to take the field, and you may not get your start and roll back. Like they're not going to leave the field. I mean, we're talking Trevor Lawrence, the guy who you can never bet on not playing that next game because he's a dog. He's always going to take the field if he can.
He's
That's
got
not
people believing the Jags don't own golf carts.
This is not the guy who's probably going to self-report in the middle of a game and let you know that, hey, I might be seeing 3 DBs. I'm like, F that. I'm going to take this thing up. I'm going to try to attack that middle DB of these 3 guys, and we're going to find a way to keep this thing rolling. Like, that's the dude who...
That's right. Yeah.
Correct. So I'm like, no. This absolutely, in my personal opinion, and again, this is all just my theory, I think this happened 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And again, if you look at it from that perspective, it's still a rough game for Jaguar fans. If you see how bad they turned the ball over, how many mistakes they made. However, you're in a 10-7 game, 2 minutes left in the third quarter against probably one of the best teams in the AFC. That changes how you feel this entire week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and like I said here, based on just watching his head hit and bounce, like you talked about there too, that's some compelling stuff. I think it makes a lot of sense that that's where it happened. And then I remember seeing that stretch of passes, from the press box. I didn't necessarily see him hit his head like that when it happened, but I could tell you from the press box, I saw a number of that string of passes looking just right and thinking he's hit those not only in other games, but earlier in this game, he's hit similar passes. Right. So I feel like there's certainly something that makes sense that's something that left him kind of off kilter going into or continuing on from that point. But however, sticking to finding some of the offensive woes and issues or what have you, there's other elements here that we were going to talk into. And well, this video you labeled foundation problems and the offense is rotten to the core. I feel attacked because I'm sure this will have something to do with the offensive line. But also by the same token, I'm in no position to tell you you're wrong. Let me go ahead and do a little bit more show, don't tell with Travis here. Go ahead, Travis.
What do you do when you can't block in the middle of your offense, in front of your offensive? Like, look at Luke Fortner. Just look at Luke Fortner on these plays. And I'm sorry to have to attack one guy, but just look in the middle. What do you do when you literally cannot run between your guards? And in a lot of ways, it attacks even your outside zone plays because you have no cut lane. Like, I have not seen NFL play like this in a very long. Like, he jumped out of the. I don't know what to do with some of these plays, and I don't want to make Luke Fortner the lightning rod for this offense, but he is just, again, even the play that Trevor got injured on, in my opinion, that's what it looked like. And right here, we got the Jaguars as the 25th ranked team in true pass sets, with the center being the worst on that list. In addition, we have, per Sports Information Solutions, Luke Fortner is also 29th out of 32 as far as run blocks blown. Like, this is run blocking. This is pass blocking. This is everything that is football. And your middle of your line, your center, and even one of your guards is bottom of the league. This is the problem that Press Taylor is currently having. This is the problem that the Jaguars offense is currently have. Everything is dedicated to getting around the fact that we can't block in the middle. How do you that? And that is a problem at its core that you can't get around in a physical game like football.
Right. And it's not like they didn't attempt to address it, bringing in Ezra Cleveland. But the thing is, he's being used to clean up other patches, so to speak. If everything was working the way it's supposed to, right? You got Cam Robinson at left tackle. You would probably have, I would say, Walker Little at left tackle, Ezra Cleveland on the right with Anton Harrison. Maybe you switch Walker and Cleveland. I can see a case for that. But then you'd still have Fortner in the middle. And at the end of the day, that would still be a struggle. Travis, you're responding, man. What do you got?
No, I'm just thinking in my head. Like, that's if everything goes to plan, I don't even think Ezra Cleveland's on the team. I don't even think they make that phone call even for that 6th round draft pick. But let's assume for whatever reason it does happen. Then you more likely than not have Walker Little as your swing tackle, just like he was, last year, and Ezra Cleveland as your guard, and you still realistically, you maybe a little bit better, but you still have an issue because that's honestly how bad Luke Fortner has been this year, and it's
Mhm.
kind of he was just as bad last year. The only difference was a lot of other teams just didn't know. And I'm going and no. I'm going to keep. I'm always going to keep it honest with you. The more tape you see, the more you realize. All right, no, there's road around the league. They cannot run out next year with Luke Fortner as their starting center because everyone knows, and there's no doubt in my mind that everyone knows because you have teams that's putting their best pass rusher at guard just to get a hand on on their guard and their center. This has been an ongoing thing at this point all year. The word's out, man. So how do you fix that?
Right. No, I think there's a lot of there on top of that, and it's funny in talking about it with going into this. We set up the group there that start what I believe would be that starting five today if everybody was healthy, right? The theoretical
Right.
week 18 starting five, right? But we say all the above to say, even in that starting group, you have an obvious weakness. One guy goes down for an extended period of time. At current, it's Cam Robinson, right?
Right.
Which, I mean, we've had that conversation of him missing years. It seems continuously. I'm on
Right.
record on different podcasts saying that the Jags should not have necessarily extended him. It's not that I think that he's a bad player. Availability is the best ability, and that's the one he's been lacking. I don't think there's any argument there. Please see what the Niners did with Jimmy Garoppolo eventually, for another example, right? So, and I say that because that concept extends beyond linemen. I don't want to make it just there. But
Right.
with all that in mind, one guy goes down and you have no more depth than this, and you have a rookie starting on the other side with Fortner among your starters. This is
Well, they also lost Josh Wells. I want to give them credit on that. They did try to sign Josh Wells early,
they
and
did lose
from Tampa
Josh
Bay.
Wells. Jawan Taylor is a Chief now. All of that.
Hodges.
Yeah, Hodges, sure. But that being said, like I was going to originally pose this as a question to you for you to then make your bulky analysis, or rather give you analysis in bulky, so to speak. But I think I'm setting the table by saying I think this lack of depth is just where your concerns when Trent Bulky's acquisition and building of a roster and what it looks like, right? That's where your beef, right?
That is my biggest beef is the fact that we did not build up that depth where it was needed in the beef. We didn't build up the beef. Where's the beef? That's where we are. And unfortunately, we did put a significant amount of investment in the offensive line. So I'm not going to take that away from them to say that they didn't try. I'm saying they didn't succeed. And I don't judge you on the attempt. It's not the thought that counts. No, it's just a holiday season. I know we say that, but no, not in the NFL. It's not the thought that counts. It is what happens on that field matters. And so they re-signed Cam, which we are kind of already agreed, I believe, that we didn't think that was the best use of resources.
Bob. Yeah.
Whatever. They used a 2nd-rounder on Walker Little. They used a 3rd on Fortner. We kind of know, and that's a weird one. They recently traded for Ezra, and then they drafted Anton. Like these in a silo, they're not all bad picks. They're some up, some down, whatever. But yeah, we still have a bottom 8 offensive line at best. Like that's where we are right now. So that's a lot of investment for bottom barrel results. And more importantly, the majority of those players kind of all have the same issues in run blocking. Like that's the weirder part. That's the big red flag. So going into the NFL, the 2023 draft, it was nearly unanimous across all Jaguar socials, across all the national media that the Jazz primary needs were offensive line help, edge, potentially cornerback or nickelback. Like we all, I think, for the most part, agreed with that. So
Well,
then, yeah. So then, the 2nd-round pick was a layup. It was a layup that Balky tried to dunk and instead got hung like those old Sprite commercials. Like that's the Jazz could have easily just drafted Osiris Torrance, and everybody was mocking them to do it in a second. And instead, he trades back with the Bears and picks up Brendan Strange. Now, Osiris has been dominating guard in Buffalo, and their running game has been dun, 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 well. Our running game is not. So
And that's the Indians' fault, by the way, here too. Like
yeah.
the way he's made lemonade out of lemons
Mm-hmm.
is just pure gold here in my mind. And listen, you're gonna have to pay him soon. Yeah, exactly. You know, the way he's kind of been productive, improved in his single full year playing. By the way, you're gonna have to pay him sooner or later. So I'm not sure how much longer he'll be around in a Jaguar uniform. That's a whole other question. We can talk
He is not going. He is not going to pull a Trevor Etienne on us. No, he is. Let that man finish because Trevor Etienne left.
No, I see what you did there. What I'm saying is when his contract's done and it's time to pay him, I don't think the Jags will be in a position to do it. That's
that's not. Yeah, I hope. Let's not have that conversation. At least we have time. Let's focus on the here and now. We got real alarms that's going off right now. That's a future potential likely alarm that we'll get to. In the
near future, sure. But with those alarms in mind, let's go to the team that at one point on their jersey had numbers that looked like an alarm clock. Tampa Bay this weekend here on Christmas Eve. Now, what's going to make this incredible? What do you got, Travis?
Wait. Just let me say this one last thing, if you don't mind. Luke Fortner ended 2022 as the 32nd ranked center per PFF. We knew that going into the draft. They stuck with him because he was a rookie, and I understand that on some level. However, they easily could have gotten off that risk by simply drafting another third round, fourth round, whatever you want to call it, center to give him some competition. Third rounders only have a hit rate of a little less than 50%. That means they're not even in the league at the end of their first contract. So you could have easily gotten off that contract. They chose not to. Now he's the 29th ranked center in the NFL, and nothing substantial changed. So they could have drafted someone like a Jake Andrews out of Troy, who went to New England later, or even signed a free agent stopover like Ben Jones out of Tennessee, and that would have been cake. They could have that's an easy, again, these are layups that they simply missed because they just wanted to depend on their guys. And then they drafted Tank Bigsby in the third round.
I think that's the one that's starting to head scratch.
While they had D'Ernest on the roster, man, they already had D'Ernest on the roster.
Hey, now you're starting to sound like me back in August, bro. Like, I'm starting to look a little bit more right. Actually, I say August. I should say May.
Starting to. You've been right. Come on, man. But yeah, you're right. Let's get to Tampa Bay. My apologies. I just had to get that off my chest.
Not at all. Hey, listen, that and you also managed. I heard Travis say you've been right. It's a Christmas miracle up in this Humpty Dumpty. Let's get over to talk about some Tampa Bay Buccaneer football here on Christmas Eve as the Jags make that long road trip. Listen, Travis, I'd have gone to that game, but they decided to schedule it at 4:00. I got little kids. You can't do that to me on Christmas Eve. What are we doing?
Right. We were originally talking about that, and I was just like, yeah, Tampa. Yeah, we'll make a weekend out of it. No, 4:00. All right, cool.
See, what happened was, no, man, listen, with that and all in mind, I guess the question comes to it. If you're the Jags, I feel like their defense is a huge concern. But the Jags defense, I've said throughout the year on Jaguar Report, that that's the Jags' strength. Sure, everybody's still saying Trevor Lawrence's team, but I think with CJ Beathard in the game, using more of a kind of a management style, right? Going with, by the way, if you're wondering why the Jags are using so many screens, it's because they're trying to attack the defect that Travis just talked about. So, and everybody out there's like, why do you run so many screens? It's because they don't have much alternative.
Second in the NFL in running screens, and they're bad at running them, but they don't have a choice.
Yeah. I think is it that they're bad at running them, or is that the defense sees it coming? And especially with a front like Tampa's, it's a problem.
The defense, the linebackers don't have to attack the line of scrimmage. Why? Why do they need to? The front four can stop the run because the Jags offensive line can't block. So all they're doing is going horizontal. They don't even have to get like depth in their drops at that point. It's just, all right, cool, straight to the sidelines. It's a horizontal offense, and we don't have much of it. There's help is not on the way until help comes on the way in the offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing worth mentioning too is what state of health are Ezra Cleveland and Walker Little in? Are they 85%? Are they 90%? Like, if they're not 100%, they too will be limited over and above. So I think there's a lot of there. I think if this is what the Jags, I think, are trying to do, are elements of the Bill Belichick offense with Tom Brady in like the second or third year there, where their run game was bubble screens. It was like an extended handoff rather than like a true pass, right? So I think that's what they're trying to evoke, but I don't think they have the personnel for that. No disrespect to, let's say, well, actually, Zay's not a bad blocker, but to like a Calvin Ridley or,
Yeah,
not that Evan Ingram's a bad blocker, but that's not his foremost usage, right?
correct.
Especially when they're going to see it coming. So,
No, correct. Again, the all the receivers are similar. They all look the same, and a lot of the guys aren't your big, bulky blocking receivers. That's just not who they are, and that's not a knock on them. That's just not the skill set that the team got. That's not who they drafted. That's not who they brought in. Cool. But then that's what you need your offense to be. That stinks because you don't have the personnel to run the offense that you need because you don't have the personnel to run the offense that you need. If that makes sense, you
it
don't
may
have
not
the offense. You don't have the
be,
receivers.
and you don't have the people that you need, and then all of it. Well, and I think that's the
Ah,
point you've made, though. You talked about the run blocking deficiency on the O line. You've talked about guys who can't block on the outside necessarily as well as some other guys. Maybe this is just a matter of the franchise doubling down too much on Trevor. That may be an element of that, and that this next year's draft is going to be a correction therein.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And we need that in our life because, again, they wasted, in my personal opinion, they wasted this 2022 offseason going into 2023. They just did. And that allowed a few of those AFC teams to catch up. Maybe they haven't caught all the way up, but they allowed them to close the gap that was where the Jaguars were versus where the Jaguars, I guess, thought they were. Now there actually is a very small gap, if there's much of a gap at all, between Houston and even Indy has made this thing look competitive, and that is a problem. So now with those teams having major cap space, and depending on what they do in this offseason, it truly may be a real dogfight, similar to what it's a dogfight right now. The fact that we're in this conversation, we have one loss can change the whole scope of this season. Hey, man, this is going to be interesting. But I do hope that Trevor plays because I think that might swing my opinion of the game this week at least.
Yeah, which is going to make this part of the show a little bit difficult, man. We're already getting that time. Travis, tell me what you think is going to happen on Christmas Eve here in Tampa.
A Christmas miracle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Duval. Let's say Trevor is clear from the concussion protocol. And again, I already said this guy's a gladiator. He's a dog. He's going to try to find a way to get on the field, and not to say that this is in his hands. Obviously, that's the doctors with the concussion protocol. But a little secret between me and you, just between me and you can beat the concussion protocol. We all know how to do that. And it was a conversation I had with the guy at UCF Jaguar yesterday. We can, if you make your original assessment with the concussion protocol worse, it's a very easy process to beat the protocol. This is kind of a secret in the NFL, frankly. So I think he clears the concussion protocols personally, and I think Trevor plays simply because he's practicing today, and that puts him on schedule to do it. With that being said, I don't think the Tampa Bay's defense is very good. It just really depends on what Jaguars defense shows up. I think we're going to have a score like 20-16 Jaguars.
Yeah, I think it's going to be nice and low like that too. I know that everybody's chirping about how good Baker Mayfield has been, but I really feel like Josh Allen is going to alter that world. I wouldn't even be surprised if you see a Trayvon Walker sack in here somewhere. Not to diss the Bucs offensive line, but this is not the same group from 2 years ago that made Tampa dangerous pre all the injuries to Ryan Jensen and all that stuff that happened that eventually forced Tom Brady to retire. But in my mind, I think, it's funny. I made a similar assessment of the game with the Browns and the Jags when that happened in Cleveland a while back. I think we got the same kind of thing with one difference, and this is going to sound weird, but Browns quarterback Joe Flacco, I have more confidence in keeping the ball safe than I do former Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. I think it's going to be something like 3-1, 3-2, 4-2 in turnover count. And I think it's going to be more for the Bucs. I think this is a sloppier game. I'm going to go 21-17 here in favor of the Jags. That being said, like I mentioned in my "Twas Some Days Before Christmas" there in Duval, even if they lose today, thank you, sir. Thank you. By the way, you can check out a different version of it on the Jaguar Report. Bing! So make sure you take a read at that there too, as well. But with all that in mind, listen, even if the Jags drop this one, I still feel like they're going to get 10 wins. Travis may be afraid of Tennessee. To what do my wondering eyes do I see, as I asked earlier? But
I'm not afraid of Tennessee. I'm afraid of the Jaguars. It's us versus us, man. It depends on which one shows up.
And that's the best answer, actually. But all of the above, I have 21-17, the Jags over the Bucs. It's going to be a close one. I didn't see what the spread was, but if it's anything more than 5 points, obviously, make sure you pick the Bucs to cover there, and do their thing, or fail to cover. I don't know. Definitely take the under. That's what I'm saying. So
I got you. Well, we have the over under at 41.5.
Yeah, and what I say, 21-17. So yeah, I got the under.
Got it.
There you go. So Travis, tell the people.
I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes, just like you see on your screen. And then you can find my writings for covering the Jacksonville Jaguars on BigCatCountry.com. Find me here every Friday at 11:15 a.m. wherever you catch your podcast, the Duval Jaguars podcast. And you can also catch me on South Florida Tribune's Inside the Pigskins on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m.
Awesome stuff. Travis, celebrate well this weekend, my friend. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, a student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram and Threads as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Jaguar Report, including the poem in question there earlier to get a gander at that. Like I said, it's a little different in the Jaguar Report version, so make sure you check that out. And of course, my writings with the black and gold banneret. I'm wearing a tie right now, not because I'm that excited to see Travis, although I am. I have a car ride ahead of me here down to Tampa, so I can jump right out and cover the action there of the Gasparilla Bowl with George Temple. Yes, exactly. So that should be a fun time to check out that action with the black and gold banneret. Immediately following the game, night shift will take place for post-game action. And of course, on the 3-point conversion, you could see on their 3-point conversion iHeartRadio channel, you'll see here the Duval dive as well. And when we do post-game interviews and things like that, you can find it on the 3-point conversion YouTube channel. Of course, my coverage of the Orlando Magic with A7BN Sports. In honor, joy, and privilege, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all. And to all, a good day. Until next time, class dismissed.